Hello, everyone, and welcome to the ride home. Today, I wanted to spend some time talking about our emotional investments. Where do you have them, and why do you have them there? So, we're going to start with the biggest question, which is where do we put our emotional investments? Many of us have them or are emotionally invested in our work, our family, our friends, sometimes even material things, our hobbies, tasks, purpose. Are they in ourself? One thing I would say is that we aren't equally emotionally invested in everything. So it's important to understand, where do we truly have the highest investment in? And how does this affect us? I would always encourage everybody to step back and first understand, where am I the most invested in emotionally? Sorry, we're going to a little bit of a rough patch here, as is everybody, right? Everybody's going through a little bit of a rough patch right now, but that'll be for a different podcast. Needless to say, emotional investments. We all have them. We're all emotionally invested in one thing or another. With that being said, we aren't always aware of when we've invested too much or too little into something until it's too late. So I would ask everyone to take a moment and step back and say, where am I emotionally invested the most? And is it the best for me? I can't tell you whether your investment is in the right place. That is a decision that you get to make. You get to decide what ultimately is the best for you. I always use my well-being as a guide. Does it provide value to my overall well-being? I'll use an example of where you can have a good investment in emotionally into something. Purpose. Everybody knows I am a big fan of purpose, of doing something with intention, and making sure that you are putting your all into it. And the reason why I'm a fan of this is because when you put everything, including your emotion, into it, empathy, love, kindness, you're going to get it back. Right? Purpose yields results. Purpose yields a response out there that comes back to you. There's a karmatic sense to purpose, and it is long lasting. Long before the experience of what you've put out there, it will continue to yield and come back to you. And there's always that internal sense of accomplishment that you can find strength in because you have purpose. I'll use an example of where potentially you might be emotionally invested in something that may not yield what you're looking for. An object. Everybody knows I'm a big fan of cowboy boots if you follow me through my various social media. Sometimes we get so hooked on buying shoes and collecting things. And that's okay. We all like to collect things. Everybody has something that we like. Some guys out there are collectors of tools, and you've got your man cave full of things. Some of us have a she shed. We all have something that we invest in and collect. When we might be overly emotionally invested in it, I would ask yourself to say, what would happen if you lost it all? If one day you had to give it all up, would you be sad by the situation? Would you miss it? Have you given those objects more value than what they really require? And if you're overly emotionally invested in that, you have to ask yourself why. And we'll talk a little bit later about why we decide to invest emotionally in the things that we do. But it's really important to step back and understand, where am I emotionally invested? Sometimes work can be one of those as well, where we emotionally get so invested in our job that we take home those difficult days, that we don't know how to just leave work at work. Sometimes we turn our job into purpose, and we forget that our job is just a means of something else. We turn our job into something that it's not designed to be, right? Our job is not the way we live. It's a means of living, but it doesn't define how we live. And if you genuinely are working with a sense that it is going to give you a higher sense of purpose, I would ask yourself, what would happen if it was all gone? And am I transforming my job, my day in and day out work, into something that it can never be? Only to end up frustrated because I'm not truly being fulfilled to the highest level. And not because it's the wrong job, simply because we have given it a different meaning. We have emotionally invested too much into something that isn't going to yield what we're expecting of it. Another thing that we tend to do with is relationships. We get so emotionally invested in a relationship, whether it's romantic, whether it is a friendship, whether it is a partnership at work. The relationships that we build sometimes can be overly emotionally invested. And you know it's a good investment when you're getting a sense of, when they're equally reciprocated. Now, when they're creating frustrations because you're not getting what you want out of it, you have to ask yourself if you've invested too much in it. The second piece of it is, why do we invest in these things? Is it because they defined or we find self-worth in them? Is it because we have a higher need of acceptance through these things and we invest into them? Is it also because we continue to be invested in something because we don't know how to let go? The fear of all the time spent into something, all the investment that we have put into it, that even long after we realize that it doesn't yield what we want it to yield, that it doesn't give us what we want to get out of it, that we don't know how to let go of that emotional investment because we've put in so much more work. And I would start with the first one, self-worth. When we decide to emotionally invest in something, is it creating a sense of self-worth? Is the yield self-worth? Do you feel better about yourself and of who you are because you're giving so much to whatever it is that you've decided to give it? The answer could be yes, the answer could be no. It all depends on what you're thinking about. The need for acceptance is so important. Many times we continue to give and give so much because we're trying to please someone. other than ourselves. We're not looking to accept ourselves, we're looking to get acceptance from someone else. And I would ask you to step back and say, why do I need the acceptance of someone else? We go back to self-worth. Now, how do we, say you've gone through all of this and you've asked yourself all these questions and you realize, I know I'm overly emotionally invested in this. But I've put so much time and effort into it that I don't know how to let go. I don't know how to move on. And I think that when we don't know how to let go, it's because we see that bad investment as failure. And letting go and walking away from all of it can sometimes feel like you made a bad choice and you failed. And I would tell you all, we all make bad decisions. We all make bad investments. We all at one point or another get overly emotionally invested in something. And we can't let guilt keep us there. Never let guilt anchor you to a bad investment. Accept it, process it, understand what got you there, and then understand that you need to let go without fear, without guilt, without resentment. Again, I'm going to start with what I started. Emotional investments. Where do you have them and why do you have them? I'm not here to tell you where you should put your emotional investments. That is your decision. Choice is the thing that we all have. And whether you want to recognize it or not, we always have a choice. Why have you decided to make that emotional investment? That takes some deep-rooted conversation with ourselves. The reasons why we emotionally invest in something are usually very subconscious. We don't consciously emotionally invest in something. It doesn't come to consciousness until it affects us. And sometimes at that point, it's a little too late. So it's important to really take a deep dive into understanding why you are making those emotional investments where you are making them. And if they're great, continue to make them. If they are driving your well-being and contributing in a positive way, continue to make them. If you've realized that they're the wrong investment, let go of them without guilt. It's okay. We all make bad investments. Again, guys, I want to just say thank you so much for taking the time to listen to my videos. If you have found worth in or value in what in this particular video, please feel free to share with somebody else. Like if you liked. If you haven't subscribed, don't forget to subscribe. I'm so excited to be back out here again. And share if you find that someone is going to find value in this video. Again, everyone, thank you so much for following me. And as always, I will see you on the ride home.